Greetings all, this is Justin.
And this is Nick. Welcome back to the Hangar Bay, our weekly Xwing show where we talk about your lists.
Yeah.
What are we doing this week, Justin?
This week we are talking about the Arc 170, an old school ship.
An old school ship, kind of like the predecessor to the Xwing.
Yeah.
Kind of like the advanced version of a Z95. It's changed in canon a few times, the significance of the ship. It is now canonized in the old movies. It's like a big, bulky version of the X-Wing that has more guns all over it.
Well, in the game now it's a medium base.
Yes, it is indeed. It can shoot backwards with 2 red dice. The old version of the Arc 170 gave you 3 dice at the front and 2 dice at the rear, but also gave you a free conversion of a focus result to a critical at the rear as well. That's no longer the case. It's just the 3 and 2, respectively.
Yeah, I don't think it's really that.
I don't think it's a huge deal either, to be honest. We do still have an ability that used to work with that in Shara Bay, which gives you an extra focus result. That's still valuable, but you don't turn that into a critical if it's at the back anymore. It's just a valuable kind of thing to have.
Yeah.
All of these are named pilots, Ibtisam, Garvin Dreis, Shara Bay, and Nora Wexley. They're all interesting and relevant. We're going to talk mainly about Shara Bay and Nora Wexley in this video, a little bit of Garvin Dreis as well. Didn't have a whole heap of interest in Ibtisam in the submissions. Actually, we have spoken about him on other list reviews in the past. Ibtisam's very interesting. He goes well into like the Junkyard Rebel lists, just like a decent value ability. But in terms of like comboing these arcs together, there are some interesting synergies and combos. We're really talking mainly about the other pilots. The reason there are no generic pilots is because the Rebellion didn't have many of them.
Yeah, they stole them all from the Empire.
Yep. They were technically Empire ships to begin with because when the Republic became the Empire, they had a whole bunch of Arc 170s, but they ended up scrapping them and using all the Scinar ships instead. We will probably have Arc 170s in the game when the Republic drops.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Probably have generics as well. Be very interesting. We know the Jedi Starfighter's coming. That's going to have Force tokens, probably, hopefully generic Force token users, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the Arc 170s were specifically a clone ship. So, yes, it's going to move into very different design space when the Republic comes out. We'll do a video on that when that happens. For the time being, these Rebel ships very much playing into the Rebel archetype of helping each other out, having a good old time and hugging your friends.
Yep.
Without further ado, let's dive into these. First of all, we want to bring up this list that Ravenhull submitted on the Discord from our Patreon. We have a list here with Nora, Garvin, and Captain Rex. And Ravenhull, you were asking about what you should do with this. You wanted some advice. So I thought rather than actually respond to that, I'd actually just do it in a video because we have actually a couple of other submitted Patreon lists which sort of help gear this in a certain direction.
Yeah. So Nora Wexley on Ravenhull's list has Veteran Tail Gunner, Expert Handling, Proton Torpedoes, R2 Astromech, and Shield Upgrade.
Garvin Dreis has Veteran Tail Gunner, Expert Handling, Proton Torpedoes, R2 Astromech, and Shield Upgrade.
And Captain Rex has Stealth Device.
So these identical builds we have on Garvin Dreis and Nora Wexley, I feel like it's trying to do a lot of different things.
Yeah.
It's certainly powerful. I don't have any issue with any of these in specific.
No.
I just think that probably you don't want to do all these different things. That's the main thing.
Well, you can't do all these things. Proton Torpedoes shoots out the front, but Veteran Tail Gunner says that only a primary shot out the front means you can then shoot out the back.
Yeah, exactly. So if you were to have them both in the list, you're only getting value out of both of them if you consistently have opportunity to use both.
Yeah.
Two different scenarios, two very different scenarios.
Yeah.
Veteran Tail Gunner wants you to be up close, brawling in the middle of your ships. Proton Torpedoes is better as an alpha strike if you're back at range 3. It's not terrible at close range if you can get into range 2, but ideally these work in different scenarios.
Yeah.
Look, there's the argument that you can sort of cover your bases by having both. I just think it's too expensive to do that. I think focusing on one or the other is the best thing to do.
Yeah, see, personally, I think the R2 Astromech and the Shield Upgrade, they're points that could be better utilised somewhere else.
That's a good point, yeah, if you want to go for that kind of thing. Look, I think R2 Astromech and Shield Upgrade, I think if we cut away the Proton Torpedoes, and had like the close range brawly kind of thing. The problem I have with R2 Astromech is those disarm tokens.
Yeah.
Arc 170s have an arc in the front and an arc in the back. They're going to get shots consistently. So R2 Astromech has more inherent downside than it would on, say, an Xwing. I think just focusing on one lane, one strategy, rather than trying to do all these different things is better. Plus, it's all very expensive as well.
Yeah.
Also, Garvin and Nora together, it's not that great because Garvin can only help Nora on defense.
Yeah.
If you had Garvin and Shara alongside each other, Garvin could give her a focus token, which is great because she can use focus tokens in different ways. They're initiative matched. And that way you can get more utility, more different flexibility.
Yeah.
You could do Nora and Shara. That's not a bad way of doing it either.
Yeah.
I just think the combination specifically Garvin and Nora is a little bit awkward.
Yeah, also the fact that they're different initiatives.
Yeah, Nora being higher is actually a problem in this list.
Yeah.
Captain Rex is cool. I dig that, yeah.
I mean, you could be passing the focus off to Captain Rex, but
realistically speaking, how impactful is that?
Yeah.
You want to put it on your more expensive ships. So, talking about all those things, let's have a look at a couple of other lists the patrons submitted. This list here by Eric Cologne. By the way, thank you, Eric. You're the one that suggested we do Arc 170s this week. I do appreciate that. We have here Nora Wexley, Shara Bay, and Fen Rao on the Sheathipede.
So this is 198 points.
Mm-hmm.
It has Nora Wexley with Duke, Hull Upgrade, and Lando Calrissian.
Shara has Duke, Perceptive, Co-Pilot, and Hull Upgrade.
And then we also have Fen Rao with Hull Upgrade, Jin, Urso, and R4.
Yes. Okay. So the R4 can give the Sheathipede a little bit more flexibility in the dial. That's cool. Hull Upgrade, I'm not really that sold on, but to be honest, there's nothing really that jumps out at me as being too wasteful. Jin Urso on Fen Rao looks like there's a lot of potential use out of that.
Yeah, you can go crazy with that one.
Yeah, it's one of the things we really like about this list. And what we were talking about before, Raven Hull, we go for a Nora Shara build instead and really strip everything down. There's a bit more utility we have here. A bit more simplicity on those platforms.
With Lando Calrissian and Jin Urso together, you basically are always getting the evade token.
So no matter what you roll and what your opponent chooses, you can always turn it into an evade. The fact that you can use Jin more than once per turn is pretty significant. It means you can get Duke working on your Arc 170s. That's a really interesting take on this.
Yeah.
Duke on a platform that really has no business using Duke. There's a big problem with this list if Fen Rao gets blown up first. Be very mindful of that because this is a problem with highly synergistic builds. You can sort of find the chink in the armor and crack it. Say, if I destroy Fen Rao, this card, and this card stops working. So your opponent's going to be mindful of that. Having said that, Fen Rao is the cheapest pilot in this build, so it's not so bad.
Yeah.
And look, Shara Perceptive Co-Pilot makes a lot of sense. Nora with Lando Calrissian is very interesting.
Yeah.
I certainly enjoy it. It's a very, very turtley build. I don't know if this is really powerful or if this is going to be meta-defining, but you have some very interesting interactions here, Eric. So very, very cool. And it's really sort of pushing one lane of strategy, which is what we're talking about before.
Yeah.
Let's move on to another list by Dead Man Walk. This time we have Shara, Garvin, and Kyle. And I like Shara and Garvin together a lot.
So do I. I think they work perfectly together.
Indeed.
Shara Bay has Expert Handling, Jin Urso, R3 Astromech, and Veteran Tail Gunner.
Garvin Dreas has Expert Handling, Perceptive Co-Pilot, R5 Astromech, and Veteran Tail Gunner.
And Kyle Katarn has Perceptive Co-Pilot and the Moldy Crow title.
Awesome. A lot of focused things going on here. Look, I don't think we have to have Kyle alongside those two other things, but if you really enjoy doing that kind of stuff, that's cool too. The fact of the matter is, I feel like Shara Bay and Garvin Dreas alone do what you want to do. You pass around focus tokens and you have more value out of it. Kyle Katarn's just icing on the cake, and I do like the Hawk right now a lot.
Ooh, yeah, it's good.
I don't think it's necessarily better or worse than just taking Jan Ors, for example, or something like that. But Kyle's a lot of fun. He's not seeing much meta play, but I think he should.
I don't think Garvin needs Perceptive Co-Pilot personally.
Yes, we have it on Garvin and on Kyle. That feels like overkill. We could drop off Kyle or we could drop off one of those perceptive co-pilots. I think you definitely want to look at one of those.
Yeah. I think if you drop it off Garvin, it then brings everything closer. This is also a 200-point build.
Yes.
So...
yeah, there's room. If we take off Perceptive Co-Pilot, you can put a lot of different cool crew options on him.
You could try the Lando again.
Yeah, you could put Lando back on. That's pretty cool, yeah. Again, Jin. Jin's really strong. Yeah. And look, okay, if we're talking about a list that has Jin, maybe there is not so much downside with having so much passing around of focus, because now there's so many things that go, okay, well, we're passing around so many focus that you have so many focus tokens that you can have an evade token next. Yeah. There's redundancy built into it.
I suppose realistically you could have focus and evade at the same turn. Which is pretty good.
That's awesome.
R5 Astromech also on Garvin?
Not too sure about that. It takes an action to get rid of a damage, either critical face down or just face down goes away completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't... Personally, as an Empire player, I don't do droids. But I don't like droids where you have to do an action.
Yeah, as an Empire player, you like efficiency.
Yeah.
Good point. I agree. We were talking about this before. There's nothing really that jumps out at me as a strong option to replace with this. Yeah. You can take R4 Astromech and just make those 2 hards blue. That's literally the only thing R4 Astromech does. Yeah. But it is a hard turn that's blue. That's not a terrible thing.
Yeah.
It's a very weird thing on this platform to have 2 hard blue and 3 hard red, but something you can do. I will say Arc 170s have a rear-firing arc, so hard turns matter less. When you do a bank with a forward and rear arc, if I can get that on the camera clearly, you're moving it like that, and suddenly the scope of where you can attack is huge. Just rotating 45 degrees is pretty significant when you have 2 arcs. Yeah. I know that because I fly the Fire Spray religiously. So, yeah. Perceptive Co-Pilot and R5 Astromech, there's definitely something we can do there to squeeze a little bit more value out of this. You could even consider just turning Kyle into Jan and just upping the power in general.
Yeah, that's true.
But nevertheless, again, we're talking about more dedicated builds, and I dig what's going on here with Shara and Garvin. I think there's a cool list here that should be workshopped. Thank you for submitting that one, Dead Man Walk. And also Ravenhull, I hope this has given you a bit of help in terms of the kind of list you could be looking at. I do want to say that Ravenhull, you submitted a list with proton torpedoes. That should not be ignored. We've seen a few things with like veteran tail gunners and that kind of stuff. If you can make an archetype work with proton torpedoes, alongside Captain Rex, because he's a bit cheaper, we can make that fit. Yeah, there's a conversation to be had there as well, I think. Let's move on to a couple of lists submitted by our YouTube commenters. We have a list here by Mr. Keenan Wild with Kyle Katarn, Garvin Dreis, Asij Tuketu, have to pronounce that right, and Iron Kraken.
Kyle Katarn has the Moldy Crow title.
Garvin Dreis has Trick Shot.
Asaj Tuketu has Barrage Rockets and Advanced Slam.
Iron Kraken has Swarm Tactics.
And this is a 200-point list.
Yes, and I wanted to bring up a couple of lists that used 4 ships as well. Now, in this list, we only have 1 arc, but it's doing a lot of work.
Yeah. Asaj Tuketu.
Sorry, I'm just looking at the different things. Yeah. Sorry.
So Garvin Dreis can use Asaj Tuketu's focus to then get another focus.
It's a weird interaction.
Yeah.
Garvin Dreis is worded when you spend a focus token.
Yeah.
Does not specifically say when you spend his focus token. It also says the other ship gains a focus token. There's no transfer of tokens. So he can spend Asaj's token as if it is his and then give Asaj or Iron Kraken or Kyle Katarn a focus token.
Yeah.
That's a really confusing interaction, but okay, it's interesting. And again, we've got Kyle Katarn here. That's pretty cool. Iron Kraken can give his friendlies an action, potentially a focus action, if you really want to go that deep on it. Swarm Tactics also messes with initiative during combat.
Yeah.
That's relevant for Garvin Dreis, I guess. Because that way he can use... That way Garvin Dreis can use a focus token and then give it to Iron Kraken before Iron Kraken shoots. That's the thing. There's a lot of weird interactions in this list. Yeah.
I think personally, rather than do Swarm Tactics, if you use Iron Kraken with Squad Leader instead of Swarm Tactics,
It's something to think about,
I think that might work a little bit better, because then you're technically kind of doing 2 coordinate actions in a turn.
Yeah, I think Kanan might... Is it Kanan or Keenan? I'm sorry if I pronounce your name wrong. You're going really deep on this synergy, and that's why you've gone for swarm tactics. Squad leader might just be better value overall. But then again, you can still focus with squad leader. You can still do all this kind of stuff. Like, if we're sort of pausing and thinking and talking very slowly, it's because all of these interactions are very weird and difficult to quantify. I'd always try and think, oh, this was clearly something better here, or clearly something worse here. That's wasteful points. This is doing a lot of things that we really haven't seen too much of, and I like that.
I think if you were to go up against this, you would be sitting there going, where do I
What
go?
do I do? I would kill Kyle first because he has the most control over focus tokens out of all of these guys.
Yeah, but Asajj...
Yeah, I know.
Is a huge amount of points. Like,
yeah, it's weird. It's very weird. I like it. It. Very creative thinking. I really dig it. If nothing else, you've got a decent collection of platforms. You have a Hawk with the title. You have an Arc. You have a K-Wing, which I think is just okay right now.
Yeah.
And you've got a Z95. Like, those 4 platforms have a decent amount of firepower across all of them. So even if all that synergy is jank, it's still going to steal some wins, but on that basis alone. So, yeah. Dig it. Dig the creativity, man. Well done. And yes, thank you to all of those submissions. They look fantastic. Very interested to see what the Arc does. Right now in meta, we're just basically seeing Garvin-Dreas, but I think we can get a bit more out there. Top 16s, let's see some Sharas and some Noras for sure. If you would like to submit a list for us to have a look at, if you are part of the Patreon on the Discord, submit it in the appropriate channel on that. If you're on YouTube just here, please just copy in the block text and put the link for it down below. Thank you to everyone who has been doing that so far. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Reddit.
If you could please consider supporting us on Patreon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much to all of our existing patrons. We'll catch you guys in the next video.
Bye.